So we've got some good news and some bad news. The good news is just that. We've actually seen some pretty good and interesting news happening for both crypto as well as Telcoin specifically. Of course, this is a Telcoin video, so everything will be focused on Telcoin more directly, but we've actually seen some pretty good news for the whole market as well. Now, the bad news, of course, is it's still a bad market. Things are still very largely down over the past day, week, month, year, all that type of good stuff. And so and all of this is essentially driven by Bitcoin and more kind of macro than that. Macroeconomics, tariffs. Tariffs actually go into effect today. The market is kind of largely on edge as to what is going to happen. Is there not going to be really anything going on because it's largely priced in? Is it going to be a super volatile event? Is there going to be some sort of like black swan event, some kind of wrinkle that we didn't see coming? Kind of in addition to the tariffs, a lot of that type of stuff. How bad is the retaliation going to be? A lot of this type of stuff. I mean, most of this is really kind of what we're waiting to see. And so I want to talk about exactly that. So anyway, we're going to go ahead. We'll dive right in. First off, we can see in the crypto bubbles kind of mixed here. We can actually see Telcoin up actually 3.4% on the day. It is actually the 115th ranked coin. It's fallen out of the top 100. So it is actually, it's not in the top 100 anymore. And so that you can see here, we're looking at the, 100 to 200 coins. So you're going to see a lot of the large ones are not here because they've fallen out of there. So if we go back to 1 to 100, you can see here, same type of thing. A couple really, really strong green bubbles, but otherwise it's definitely more red than green. We can actually see some fairly large red bubbles here and there as well. So, that's kind of what we're seeing here. As I mentioned, the week, the month, and the year, all very, very red. The year does have kind of a couple really, really nice green bubbles, but the majority here is just very, very red. And so, this is kind of what we've come to accept with kind of some of the tariff situation going on. I think there's kind of two ways that we can spin this whole tariff thing. We'll get into that here in a second. But as it relates to Telcoin, you can see not really a whole lot happening, still kind of down on the market. We can see on the market overview, we have actually come back up into neutral, which I do find kind of interesting because if you look, this is largely driven by Bitcoin because Bitcoin has actually gotten a little bit stronger. It's bounced a little bit. I think it was about 80,000 yesterday. It's about 84,000 today. But if you look at basically the entire rest of the altcoin market, it's fallen very hard. And so the actual market average as a whole has actually fallen back out of neutral and into weak again. And that's because, again, Bitcoin did well, but basically the rest of the market has not. You can see a little bit of that coming here on, this is the Bitcoin open interest. You can see open interest coming up a little bit price. We could see spiking a tiny bit. And then obviously the exchange liquidation map actually a move back down to the downside on the 1 day. Then if we look at the 7 day, it's probably going to be a move to the upside, which of course it is. So that's kind of where we're looking. Now I want to go and take a look at Telcoin here, and we can see that the Telcoin chart is actually looking not really anything too crazy going on. We obviously saw that a little bit of that run up back here in the middle of February. This is when Telcoin was doing fairly well. A lot of people are getting a little bit excited about what could be and a lot of that type of stuff. Overall, it is still a relatively difficult market. So we can see exactly what that, what's going on here. We've got kind of the major point of support down here at like this point 0042 range. And then we've kind of got like a decent level of kind of like, I guess, resistance at this kind of range right here, I would say. You can see obviously, held up a lot here, also being a little bit of a bit of resistance there. And we can also see coming back, there's actually a little bit of resistance, but this chart, since it's on weeks and weeks just actually started carrying this a little while ago, doesn't have some of that. Now, the other thing that we can see as well is there's kind of more of like a zone here. You can see, I think it's this zone. Actually, it kind of goes both ways, but I think this is the clear zone that we can see. I charted this all out before and then it left me because that's just what my charts like to do. They like to delete themselves, which is always fun. But yeah, you can see here, obviously lots of wicks poking up into this range, lots of wicks coming down into this range, kind of while it was used as a support. Here, this was a very strong resistance that we could not get out of. Then again, we did actually break out of it, but then of course came right back down into it and then now have broken through again. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Obviously, we're backed up against this resistance right here. We'll be running into this resistance as well if we were to break out of this one and break above it. We can see obviously RSI not looking particularly great, though volume has kind of kicked up a little bit. I have seen weird things with the volume tracking on both WEEX and BTCC before, so I'm not sure if this is like a bug, but it is interesting that we're seeing more volume on average and less price action. So kind of interesting. That could be indicative of some much higher kind of buy and sell walls kind of between these two areas, which could be kind of something interesting to note all on its own. Now, if we go back and we take a look at the kind of macro conditions, we obviously can see for Telcoin, down. You can see it just deleted all my stuff again. Isn't that great? But you can see, it's kind of been very down pressed, down focused. If you look here, we can kind of almost see exactly this. We've got that descending trend line. This descending trend line, very common to Bitcoin, which is what I wanted to get into now. If we look at Bitcoin, we can see, and again, I'm getting into Bitcoin because this kind of draws a comparison as to why Bitcoin is important, even though, we're about to be seeing some pretty good news regarding Telcoin. We can see from Bitcoin, it's following the exact same descending trend line. And so until it really breaks above this, I really don't foresee much action happening for alts, if I'm being completely honest. If we do look at the Bitcoin or the recent Bitcoin price performance, we can see a pretty nice bounce right here, but then it looks like, maybe getting a little bit rejected. We didn't even get up to the trend line at this point and starting to maybe get rejected and pushed further lower. Hard to say exactly, how low this can go. I think a lot of it really depends on the tariffs and how those go tomorrow. There's really, I think, kind of two main ways that we can look at the tariffs going on here. I think the first way is basically all of the uncertainty will be over after tomorrow, or I guess I should say a major part of the uncertainty will be over after tomorrow. And so now people, particularly crypto investors who are super speculative, can start to have a little bit more confidence that there's not going to be any potentially scary black swan events or anything crazy like that. Again, kind of the nature of a black swan event is that it's unpredictable and you can't ever see it coming. But again, perception is kind of becomes reality at a certain point. And when people predict unpredictability, then, obviously they're going to act accordingly. And so that's something that's very, very important to note. And so with that, that's kind of the first thing is I think with some of that unpredictability being gone, people might be a little bit more interested in being a bit more aggressive. Now, the second thing could be kind of the exact opposite, right? The retaliatory tariffs are a lot more punishing than what the markets are initially kind of expecting and pricing in. The economy can't really handle it. We go into a recession, then obviously, recession, tariffs, costs going higher, buying power and earnings going lower. Not really a great combination, right? So we always need to keep an eye on that, keep track of that, make sure that we're not kind of unwittingly walking into a trap that could be a little bit difficult to get ourselves out of. So anyway, now the next thing I want to focus on, though, is actually this news that we could see that Telcoin was at the blockchain summit, the DC blockchain summit, where the CEO is actually speaking on the future of banking, which is really, really cool. You could see met with the Fed, the CFTC, the CSBS, and the House Financial Services Committee. So a lot of people very, very high up in the US government, which is obviously a good thing to see, right? I mean, it's good that Telcoin is getting exposure. I think this is really actually good news for them and for the team overall, but also it's good for just crypto as an ecosystem, right? I mean, this is something that I think is super important and really shouldn't be underplayed, right? But so many people are ignoring this right now just because the price is going down. Obviously, it's a little bit of a binary way to look at it, which is a little bit frustrating, but I mean, obviously that's just kind of how it goes in life, and honestly, as I've mentioned in a couple of the previous videos, I think this is really important to kind of take note of, because when people aren't paying attention and prices going down, but valuable things like Telcoin being seen by some of the the highest ranking people in charge of making policy within the company or within the country, of the US being, that's really, really good news, right? And that's super interesting that a lot of people aren't seeing because the price is going down. And so, obviously we've got this kind of good news, bad market type of situation. And what I will say is, again, short, medium term, we could continue to go lower. I'm fully prepared for something like that to happen. However, if I guess I should say when we get through this period of uncertainty, I think fundamentally what is happening within the crypto space is highly, highly important and super, super bullish. Now, again, this could be a year, this could be 2 years. We don't know. It could be 2 days from now. It's really, really hard to say, but it's just very, very important to know that when we get past this period of uncertainty and once people feel like all of the scary things that could happen are past us, then in my opinion, I think we'll be off to the races. And so that's really kind of what I'm looking for here and what I think is really interesting. So the last thing that I want to say, kind of sticking along the line or the theme of this really good news happening, is we can see that Van Eck files for a BNB ETF in Delaware. Really, really interesting stuff. They're not BlackRock, so I think we'll have to wait until BlackRock files because that just seems to be how it goes. We can also see GameStop raising $1.48 billion for Bitcoin investment. That's interesting because it's almost like they're trying to take the like MicroStrategy play. MicroStrategy kind of just stopped being the company that they were and just kind of was like a leveraged Bitcoin holding company, which, whatever. It's almost turned into kind of like a mimetic type of thing, which I do find interesting. And honestly, what better company to join into this like mimetic, Gen Z young person, Bitcoin type of craze than GameStop? I mean, GameStop was kind of like, one of the first like major like investing finance memes. You could even say it was like the Dogecoin before Dogecoin, right? I mean, very, very interesting type of situation. And so the fact that they're trying to pull this type of Bitcoin play, really interesting to me. I'm very intrigued to see how that ends up working out. Then we can also see, Eric Trump endorsing Bitcoin. Again, he's not a government official, but more people kind of very close and connected to government officials working to kind of, espouse the promises and the perks and the benefits and all that stuff of crypto and Bitcoin more specifically, which I do think is really great to see. And then again here, BlackRock gaining FCA approval as crypto firm in the UK. So again, lots of really good news happening, lots of regulatory clarity coming, lots of uncertainty kind of sorting itself out. I know it doesn't look like that quite yet. I think kind of today is the major catalyst that's going to hopefully clear a lot of that away. But so much of this is kind of exactly what we're looking to see in terms of regulatory clarity, clearing of uncertainty, and then ultimately just kind of giving crypto a pathway to grow. It's already grown so much and it's done so well without any sort of like real institutional or legal pathway that I think that this could be a really, really strong opportunity for it to just 10x, 100x, whatever, right? I mean, I think it really could see another period of really, really explosive growth because of all the institutions and essentially like the more legitimizing of crypto, which I think is, it's a double-edged sword, but I do think it is probably a net good overall. So anyway, if you are interested in trading, obviously, I was showing you how to trade on both LEEX and BTCC. That's where we were looking at the charts. If you are interested, links to those as well as Phemex are in the description below. You got 10% deposit bonuses. You've got $20,000, $30,000 sign-up bonuses, grid trading bots, leverage trading like DEX coins, which is pretty interesting. So there's a lot of different things you can do there. Also, if you have any comments, questions, thoughts, feelings, anything like that, just drop those in the comment section below. I do try to read and respond to all of those. So if you have anything that you want me to see, that'd be a great way to do so. And then obviously, of course, a like and a subscribe really do go a long way if you did find the content informational, useful, enjoyable, all that type of stuff. So anyway, thank you guys for tuning in and we'll see you in the next one.